I want to start off by reading our text for today. It's going to be Matthew chapter 25, if you want to follow along. I'm going to be reading from the NKJV this morning. Usually I read from ESV, which I really love, but I also love the NKJV version. The reason that I'm reading from the NKJV version is because I'm using today my son's Bible. We were reading the Bible together, and he said, "Dad, can you preach from my Bible one time?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so it's got some cool road marks on it, and it's a really cool Bible. There's pictures in it. It's really great. In the case, I just want to show you, it's amazing. It's like camo army green, and right here it's got a compass, just in case you ever get lost while you're reading the Bible. So hopefully I will see you, Henry, someday preaching from this same Bible. Wouldn't that be a blessing? Wouldn't that be great? All right, I'll start. The kingdom of heaven shall be likened, for the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, and to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey. Hey, Steve, I'm just going to read through. You change these slides, okay? Just the verse slides. I don't want to have to worry about that as I'm reading. And likewise he had received... Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another, how many talents? 5 talents. And likewise he who had received 2 gained, how many? 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, "Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents, and look, I have gained 5 more besides them." And the Lord said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord." Wow. Imagine hearing those words. He also who had received 2 talents came and said, "Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them." His Lord said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord." And then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, "Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours." But his Lord answered and said, "You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed, and so you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers. And at my coming, I would have received back my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." So contextually, what's happening here is this. Jesus has gone into the temple. He's cleaned it out. Can you imagine the ruckus, the drama, the fame, the notoriety Jesus is gaining? He's being questioned by the Sadducees, by the Pharisees, and he's putting them to shame. He's saying, "Woe to you, Pharisees, woe to you." And there's all this pressure building. Jesus is becoming more and more and more famous in this moment. And right after this preaching, right after this word, there is now a plot to kill Jesus. So contextually, that matters because what Jesus is saying is, hey, right before I die, this is what I need to teach you. This is what you need to know before I die and before I raise. And really, this is actually contextually in a group of three. There's actually the parable of the 10 virgins, where the 10 virgins go out and they bring oil and they wait for the bridegroom, but 5 of them don't have enough oil, right? Because the bridegroom was delayed. Do you remember this story? And so Jesus is saying through that parable, be prepared. And then he preaches the parable of these 10 talents, which is to say, on the main surface of it, invest what you have and bring me more. And then after this parable, Jesus says, I'm going to be coming, and when I'm on my throne, I'm going to be separating out the sheep from the goats. And here's what I'm looking for, and we'll get to that. We aren't talking about talents. The first time when I read this story when I was a little kid, I actually thought Jesus meant talents like an ability, like the ability of what you might have. Like you have a talent to sing, or a talent to be hospitable, or a talent to be organizational. As a young reader, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. That's not what Jesus is saying here. Jesus is using an actual sum of money. And what's so interesting, he says, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. So the master is saying, this is actually a small thing. And so as a young reader, I thought, well, a talent must be something you could just fit into your pocket. But that's not at all what it is. You see, a talent is 6,000 denarii, and 1 denarii is what you would get if you worked for an entire day. 1 denarii you get for working a whole day. A talent is 6,000 of those. That is to say that a talent is actually between 16 to 20 years worth of wages. Roughly, if you were to take an average salary of today, let's say $65,000 a year, a talent, give or take, this is super rough. Please don't quote me. This is a very rough number. You could think of it as a talent as $1 million. And so Jesus is saying, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. To Jesus, to this master, $1 million is a few things. It's worth very little. Because this master has so much more. In Psalms, it says that God is the owner of the cows on 1,000 hills. He owns everything. And that brings me to my first point. The smallest of God's gifts is actually extravagant. The smallest. We always like to, sometimes we read this story and we think, man, that poor guy who had just that 1 talent. Oh, just 1 talent. No, he had $1 million. He was given $1 million in today's day, in today's money, by the master. He wasn't entrusted with a little. He was entrusted with, to what is in our eyes and to our minds, a lot. But to the master, it's so little. And so that brings me to the first point, that even the smallest gift of God is worth so much. And yet, what's so interesting is that we have what we have, our jobs, our income, our cars, our homes, our apartments, our belongings, our relationships, everything that we own, and I use that word accidentally, we don't actually own these things, do we? Who gave the talents? The master gave the talents. That is to say, the talents that the servants had, which is to say, the things that we have today, are actually not ours. They are the master's. They are God's. Everything you have from the breath in your lungs is not yours. It is God's. And even the smallest thing that he gives you is worth so extravagantly much. We wrongly claim ownership over so many things. And you know what's interesting? We like to claim ownership over something, but not claim accountability over something. We don't like to answer for the things that we own. Or sometimes it's actually the opposite. We like to be really involved and sort of accountable for a lot of things. We want to have a title. We want to be involved in this, involved in that. But we don't want to actually have any ownership of it. We don't want to be, in effect, accountable for it. And so what is the other way? Jesus is teaching us here that what we have, we don't own, and therefore what we need to see ourselves as is a steward, These talents, if you give a servant, not just any servant is going to be given a talent or 2 talents or 5 talents. No, this is going to be a steward that has proven, a servant that has proven himself to have the gift of stewardship, to have the gift of being able to take something and to take care of it. The guy who had 1 talent should have been able to do better with it, because the talents were given according to their abilities. The one who had 2 talents brought back 2. The one who had 5 brought back 5. God provides the source material. What do I mean by this? I was reading my Bible, I was reading this Bible actually, Henry's Bible, with Henry, just last night. No, not last night, the night before last night. Henry has a great goal. He wants to read this whole Bible before his birthday, which is a pretty ambitious goal for a 7-year-old, I must admit, but I'll do everything I can to help him. We were reading through Genesis, just chapter 1, and God is creating the earth. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God said, let there be this, and there was this. And God said, let there be this, and there was this. And I said, Henry, how did God create? How did God create all that? And we looked back into the Word, and we came to the conclusion, the Lord just spoke, and there it was. You see, God is the only one who can truly create something out of absolutely nothing. What we do is we work with the source material. This world that God has already created. These people that God has created. The people that have been knit together by God in their mother's womb. These relationships we have, we're not creating a relationship. We're working with the source material that God has already provided. Does that make sense? We have this urge to create, but really it's almost like we're sub-creating. Only God can work the miracle of true creation. And so what we're called to do is to take what's been given to us, from the breath in our lungs, to the relationships we have, to our bank account, to all of the possessions that we own, and to work with them to create more, to produce more, to multiply those things. But God is the creator. He has done the original creation. If you have a job, it's because God gave you that job. If you have a car, God gave you that car. If you have a relationship, it's because God put that person in your life. Your job is to multiply that which God has already given you, to work with the source material. I used to be a woodworker. Do you guys know this about me? Probably a lot of you don't know this about me. I used to really like working with wood. I'm being too generous, honestly. I should not call myself a woodworker. I used to make like a couple tables and stuff around the house, but I could never really get the corners to be exactly square. I could never get everything to be exactly even. I could never quite get everything to be perfectly smooth. But I tried and I tried and I tried. I bought a bunch of saws, and I thought the more tools that I have, the more I'm going to be able to, better I'm going to be creative. But you know what? The gift of woodworking wasn't just not really super into me. It's just not really, even though I liked it, I wasn't a very good one. And honestly, one of the most discouraging things was like seeing the things that other people create. And I want to show you just some work here. This is a woodworker that lives here actually in Brush Prairie. And what he does is he takes just branches and pieces of wood, And he creates around the natural curvatures of these things. And now, while I might have been able to make this frame, and like really badly, honestly, he is able to cut around the natural curvatures of the wood perfectly, by hand, by the way. By hand. And then to cut the glass, in the middle of the glass, to perfectly fit that shape, to route that area. And if you look at this, he calls this piece like the Crater Lake piece. And I've actually exchanged a few messages with this guy back and forth, and he's a Christian. And I asked him, man, how do you do it? And he said, I treat my woodworking as an act of worship. As an act of worship. He takes such deep care that he wants it to glorify God. But look what he's created. Even though he has all this skill, he's still only working with source material. He didn't create that wood, right? He didn't create the glass. He's working with the source material to make something beautiful and glorious, something that shows the glory of God. This is it's supposed to be islands, right? It's an archipelago, and this is supposed to be a lake that actually exists. These things he's taking and pointing it to God. And we are image bearers of this creator God. And so what we have to do is work with the source material. I want to honor a couple people in the room right now. There's a guy here that's in this room, and I just respect him so much because of what he's done with the video team. You guys know this whole video team that works around the scenes, right? It's pretty amazing because if you look online, if you have to miss church sometime and you look online, you're going to feel like you're in the room because these camera people are right up in the worship team, and they're right up. And while it was annoying in the very beginning, to be honest, I was a little distracted by it. And I did cite some concerns. We all kind of got used to it, right? But now we have this beautiful online ministry that people are able to come and connect into. I actually asked this guy who created this ministry. By the way, it's fueled by the youth. How awesome is it that we see a whole gigantic group of youth serving the church every single Sunday? Can we give them a round of applause? I asked this guy, the leader, who created this ministry, what are you passionate about? And he said, I don't know, like music. He was playing the bass today. And yet there was this need. There was this need that we had, and he went and he filled that need, even though he wasn't exactly passionate about that thing. You see, he does video for work in his day job. And he took those skills, he's assembled a team, and now we have something that we didn't have before, which is a really beautiful video ministry that serves people, that glorifies God. Another person is somebody who said, you know what, we really need a place for people to connect in the middle of the week. I'm going to organize that. And he went and he organized it, and we have a beautiful Wednesday ministry that meets and encourages each other. Something that wasn't there is now there. And then the final person was one of the pastors of this church. And when I was in Tacoma studying, I was getting really comfortable there. I really liked it. It's a really beautiful place to live. I just got my first job, but I would get a call every single week from this pastor saying, Eric, I'd like to start an English service. You need to come back and help me do that. You got to do that. You got to come back. Move your family back. Help me start this English service. That was 10 years ago. And 9 years ago, we started the English service. This same service that you're all sitting in, something wasn't there and now is there. If you talk to this pastor, what is he actually passionate? I mean, he's probably going to say, I like to really play with my grandkids. I really like going fishing. You see, we have this obsession sometimes that this thing that we're going to do, this service that we're going to do, we need to be passionate about it. We don't necessarily need to be passionate about this, about serving God in terms of like, we don't need to always feel good about it. Sometimes it just needs to be done. Sometimes we need to see the need and fill the need. Amen? If we are only working out of our passions and only working out of our emotional highs, I think very little is actually going to get done in this church. Very little is going to get done in the kingdom of God. No, we need steadfast people who see the need, who gather the people, fill the need, and create something that wasn't there. Or, to go back to my original point, to gather the source material, right, and put it all together. It says in this text that the people who received the talents received them according to their what? Abilities. Their passions? No. Their interests? No. Their hobbies? No. According to their abilities. I don't think it was a surprise to them that they received the talents. I don't think they were surprised by that. It was according to their ability. I think sometimes we look so deeply within us and we're like, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? Look at the obvious thing. What are you obviously good at? What are you obviously talented at? What is your obvious gifting and calling? And do that thing. I think of another guy, he's a firefighter, he goes to this service. He's the guy that makes sure we're all up to fire code. Seems like such a simple thing, and yet it has a huge, huge, huge impact, and it's so behind the scenes. He takes what he obviously has, this obvious ability that he has, and he serves the church with it. For me, actually, let me ask you this. Which of these three servants, the one with the 5 talents or $5 million, the one with the 2 talents or $2 million, or the one with the 1, which one of them is the most impressive to you? Show of hands. Just show me on your fingers. 5, 2, or 1. Go. Pretty much everybody show me 5. Guys, the guy with the 2 talents is the most impressive. Think about it. You're called into a meeting with your boss, okay? You're called into a meeting, and you're all in this meeting together. And your boss says to the guy right next to you, I'm going to give you $5 million to invest, okay? Cool, wow. Okay, all right. I'm in. I'm the leader. And then he turns to you, and he says, I'm going to give you 2. Wait, why do I get 5? Do you not trust me as much? Are my abilities not the same as the 5? He's an investor. I'm an investor. Give me 5 too. I think the guy with the 2 talents is the most impressive because even though he was clearly lower in terms of his ability, what the master trusted him with, he still went out, invested it, and brought forth fruit. Sometimes we like to be the leader. A lot of the times we like to be the leader. We like to be the first in line. We like to be the main person who gets all the attention, and I want the most entrusted to me. But no, we are where we are. God is in charge of our development. God is in charge of God knows the best what we are able and capable to be entrusted with. And so God gives us to us according to our abilities too. And sometimes we get frustrated. Why am I not trusted more? I have all these abilities. I self-assess so hard, like I can do more. And yet God says, no, just do this. I need you to just do this. I need you to just do the 2 talents. Not just the 1 talent, not just the 5, the 2 talents. You're the 2 talent guy. The 2 talent guy to me is the most impressive. And so even though we have a proven capacity to create and to be entrusted with things, yet we are still capable of burying. The problem with burying your talent is not that you've buried it and given back to the master what he's owned. You see, we almost think that the master, like this guy who had the one talent, well, what's the loss? The master has broken even. He was given a talent, he hid it, he put it in a savings account, right, or something, or buried it in the ground, and he brought back one talent. What's the problem? The master didn't lose anything. Interesting. I don't think so. This servant is living on the master's dime already. He is a servant in the household. He's eating the master's food. He's living in the master's lodging. He's got all the master's clothes. He has a position of power. And he comes back after many, 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 many years. It says a long time passed. And he brings back only what the same thing the master gave him. He brings back only the thing that was given to him. Now he's bringing back a net loss. Does that make sense? The master has lost on that servant. And that's why it's evil. And that's why it's wicked. In the ESV version, it says, you slothful servant. I looked up the etymology of that in the Greek. The other word that can be used there is coward. You coward. You cowardly servant. You fearful servant. It's not caution, it's cowardice. When you take something that God has given you and you do nothing with it, that's cowardice. That's not caution. Burying creates loss. Friends, someday we're going to come together and the master's going to come and he's going to settle accounts with us. It says it right here. What are you going to show for your life? What are you going to show for the things that God has given to you? What are you going to show for your relationships that he has allowed you to have? What are you going to show for the skills you have? What are you going to show for the possessions you have, the house you have, your bank account? What are you going to show for the time that you've been given? You're running out of time. This isn't a call, to be clear, to live a legalistic life, to do for God. And that way I'm going to get salvation. No. You should be prolific in your production as a response to the grace that you've been given, the extravagant gift you've been given. Because if you don't, you are rebelling. Rebellion doesn't just create, the burying doesn't just create loss, it is an act of rebellion to the very image that God has placed in you. His image of a creator God. So what do we do now? Okay, we've got all these things. How do I practically put this into play? Well, if you read on, Jesus says it very specifically. I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when? When did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did to one of the least of my brothers, you did it to me. God gives us our talents and the resources we have, the breath in our lungs, the time that we have, it's not for us. It isn't for us. It's for all of those that are around us. He's given us people to minister to. He's given us people that are in need of food. He's given us people that are in need of clothing. He's given us people that have so many needs, and he gives us everything we have and everything that we could possibly need to serve them. What are the two greatest commandments? To love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. You are given talents to love your neighbor. Amen? Whew, I could just end right there. 1 Peter says, 4:10, it says, as each one has received a gift, minister it to one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. Our talents are not for us. And so let's take a look, though, once again, always, let's look again at the speaker of this parable. Jesus Christ. Look at what he did with his time, with his resources, with his earthly life. He prepared. He discipled, he fed, he healed, he wept, he grieved with those who were weeping, he washed, he obeyed, and by his obedience to the cross, Jesus saved. He didn't sit on the power that God gave him. He saved the world with it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Jesus did that for us. And when we understand this, and when we begin living missionally, not just sitting on what we have, but when we begin living missionally, at the end of our lives, whether it be when we die or whether when Jesus comes, we will enter into the joy of our master. I love this description of it. Entering in as if it is a dwelling place. We'll be surrounded in the joy of our master. Imagine hearing those words. Well done, good and faithful servant. The secret is that as we do things for the joy of God, as we do things for his glory, it is also for our good. Will this be a turning point for you, my friend? Are you going to stop burying all the amazing source material that God has put into your life? Or will you do the work that brings your master joy? John Piper wrote a book that we all read when we were in youth. The book was titled Don't Waste Your Life. And he has this really poignant example. On the day of accounting, are we going to bring to God a seashell collection? Or are we going to bring to God, now this is me talking, not John Piper anymore, are we going to bring to God, hey God, look, I watched 10,000 reels on my phone. Are we going to bring to God, Lord, look at all these amazing meals that I ate and spent all this money on? What are we going to show on the day of accounting? What are we going to show out of the response of this grace that he has given us? This extravagant gift he's given us in his Son, our salvation. Out of that, what are we going to do? What are we going to show? I hope we show something, my friends, that brings joy to the Master. Let's stand and let's pray.